Viewers, and welcome to yet another exciting Women's Z Bola show. In case you're seeing me for the first time on your screen, this is your only show that is dedicated to women's football in Zambia. As usual, I am your host, Bupe Jen. So this show is going to give you a lot of updates across the country, updates on the Copper Queens, players playing abroad, as well as the local league. On today's episode, we are going all out and I have a rich panel to, of course, direct the league that came to an emphatic conclusion where we saw teams so close to dethrone the 4 times in a row champions, but yet so far. So quickly, let me introduce my analysts who are going to analyze the league that came to an end. I have Van Nicholas and I have Naboth. Welcome to the show, gents.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be on set and obviously talk about women's football.
Thank you very much for your time that you have given to come here. So I am going to start with, okay, this question, either one of you can go. So let me hear you sum up the 2023 and 2024 league that came to an emphatic conclusion.
Yeah, I think overall it was an exciting league. You looked at what was how the drama went. I think it was very competitive at the highest level, and it just speaks volume of how much women's football has grown. In as much as it wasn't close to last season when Red Arrows, I think they were the closest team to actually pose a threat to dethrone Green Buffaloes as champions. But in terms of how it went to the wire and people were interested, I think it just shows to say it's really growing. Uh, Zesco really made Green Buffaloes good run for their money because Zesco only lost one game that was against Green Buffaloes, so that's why they lost the title. Overall, it's about Green Buffaloes showing the right mentality to obviously be champions. Why they have been champions? Actually, at Super League level, they have been champions 4 times, and overall in terms of even back then when it was in the playoffs, when it was just at playoffs level, they won it 6 times, which makes it 10 times in a row they have been champions. So overall, no one has ever actually beaten Green Buffaloes when you look at it. So it just shows to say they have characters in that team, and they keep on building that character despite them letting go the likes of Rusho Momwemba, Irene Lungu, Martha Tembo, but still they keep on building more characters and more champions in that team. Still, everybody who comes in are unable. For Zesco, I felt this was their best season ever because Zesco really haven't had such a good run in the league, but they went on and chased Green Buffaloes, a team who obviously have an upper hand. For Zesco, I think the way they have invested in the team, it has helped them a lot, and the reinforcement which they made early on in the window helped them a lot, and that's how they were able to compete with Green Buffaloes. Obviously, they feel hard done by looking at how the season went, losing only one game. They in the return leg they drew, so that's why they lost it. Just that 3 points which they lost the league to is where the difference came in. So overall, it was an exciting league and obviously good for marketing strategy. We are seeing new sponsors expected to come in coming next season after the ZPL announced to say they'll be bringing sponsors. So as the league progresses, we can say it was a good benchmark for the next season.
All right. Speaking about competitiveness, do you think the league was that competitive, or we are just hyper, or maybe Green Buffaloes are just so good that they have even proven once more?
Well, for Green Buffaloes, I think the fact that they have won it 4 times in a row speaks volumes of them. I think they have the character and they really know what to do. And they did it again for the 4th time straight in a row. I think it's the players' character and the quality of players that they have in that team. I think, like he has said, Zesco, I think, had one of their best seasons in the Women's National League. But obviously, they came short, only losing 1 game and, falling short to obviously dethrone Green Buffalo. So I feel teams are pushing, but the bar that Buffaloes are set is just too high. And all in all, I think with teams, if they can beef up their squads and obviously bring in some quality players like Zesco did, I think if you talk about the depth, I think Zesco had it all. Zesco had it all, and that's why they went punch for punch for Green Buffaloes. But with Green Buffaloes, like I said, the character that is the team and the quality of players that they have around them. Most of the players that play for Buffaloes are the ones that represent even the nation at large. So Buffaloes are really a big team, but despite Buffalo's winning the four titles, I think this one, it almost went to the wire because Buffalo's only had to win it with a game to spare, with a game to spare. So I think the league is competitive, and you look at the bottom half, the bottom end. I think we had to wait for the last day to see which team was relegated because three teams were in contention for relegation, and we had to wait for the final whistle to confirm that National Assembly were the final and last team to join the likes of Chipata United and Cowboy Celtics Queens into the to be relegated and demoted to the second division of women's football. So I think competitive wise, it is competitive despite Buffalo's obviously claiming the four titles. I think going forward we might see a change. Obviously with Zescondola girls doing so, and in Deni obviously they also pushed themselves and were in the title contention. Overall, they only managed to lose 2 games the entire season, so that obviously speaks a lot about them. And in their two fixtures against the team that won the league, they managed to do so. I think also it's they have a good project led by Coach Laxon, and obviously going forward, I think it will just get better and better in terms of competitiveness. And I have a strong feeling maybe we might see a change in terms of who wins the title come next season.
All right. Van, you recently mentioned about Zesco making a lot of investments, of which it has something to do with salaries and also the recruitment of players. Do you think they did all they can, or they are still in the learning process?
I think Zesco made the right, like he has mentioned, they made the right enforcement. I think in terms of investment into the squad, I think you could say they are the best window transfer because looking at them bringing in Charity Mubanga from Ghana Queens, I think she was doing very well. Also, you look at some of the players they brought in who changed the complexion of that team. So the competitiveness was just so tight. Chris Kapasa at right back there just changed the shape of the defense there. And in midfield, they also bring in the young Yamba Yamba. So you could see to say they are trying to compete and obviously add numbers up front. Some of the players they let go were good enough to obviously go and play in other leagues. So on that side, I can say they did well. But you can't buy being a champion. That's one thing which is matters the most, and that's the character. I remember in the previous season when Green Buffaloes almost lost the league to Red Arrows. We had a conversation. I had an interview with Natasha ahead of the last game where they just needed to win and maybe hope that Red Arrows lose or draw, and maybe that's when they'll be champion. A calm conversation with her. She was just like, we have to go there, just go play our game, and we won't care about what Red Arrows have to do. Just shows how much character they have in that team. Everyone is a character. Natasha is just a young player, but you could see how she was coming out, and that's what Zesco needs or any other team to beat Green Buffaloes and become champions. So the time is still around there, obviously, to prepare and we come back. Zesco now, they know what it takes, and they know to say we have to beat teams around us if we are to be champions. So this time around, I'm sure they'll be targeting to win games against maybe Indeni as well as Green Buffaloes as well. Red Arrows in around. We expect Red Arrows this time around to come back and compete because they are players for training, the likes of Ochumba and others who went for training. So I expect it to be more competitive this time around in terms of how it will be next season.
All right. Now, both you talked about teams that survived relegation. What can you say for them to work? What do you feel they need to work on most in the next season?
On the teams that were relegated, I think we saw some teams like National Assembly, the team that was relegated on their last day. I think this is a team that obviously wouldn't have thought that they will be relegated at the end of the season. If you take a look at National Assembly, I think over at the start of the season, they lost some players that played a significant role in the previous season. Basically, they were trying to refresh and trying to bring in new blood, which in the end worked against them because they felt they didn't really bring in players with much experience to make them survive and obviously post some good results. That's obviously that made National Assembly to go down. But if you look at the investment that they have with the support from the National Assembly, I think it's a team that I strongly feel will bounce back to the Super League come next season. If they manage to just keep the same players that they do have, I think maybe one or two players like the experienced captain Tabo will leave, obviously will leave and play for, still remain in the Super League. But overall, if you look at the team, it's a good side. Even on the last day, they managed to beat Trident away, which was a positive sign. That win could have assured them to stay in the Premier League, but on the other hand, Kamfisa had beaten Inden, which meant that they would go down. So overall, I think it just in terms of planning, that led down to National Assembly being relegated, and I'm sure people at management level at National Assembly know what to do now to get the team back to the Super League.
All right. So I want to hear this in your own ways, in your own views. Seeing that we are the nation that is rising in women's football, what do you think all teams need to work on the most to improve in the next season?
Well, I think for the teams that were pushing to win the title, like Zesco, Indeni, and obviously maybe we can throw in names like Zanaco. I think it's all about trying to keep your best players and attract quality players. When I say keep your best players, I think in time in memory we would see Zesco players, the best of Zesco players leaving from Zesco Ndola Girls to go and join Green Buffaloes Women's, but I think the trend has changed, and Zesco Ndola Girls now, I think, are more financially stable and able to bring in quality players and keep those best players. So going forward, for those teams that chase like Indeni and Zesco, I think they just need to reinforce with some better players and keep those players that made them tick. And maybe going into the next season, we might just see a new champion. And for the teams, obviously coming national from the national leagues, I think we also what happened to Cabo Celtics and Chipata. I think from their respective zones, I think they were hammering teams. Cabo Celtics, I think they even were posting 9-0 results, but when they came to the Super League, they didn't reinforce. And we also what happened, I think they were just busy donating points. So I think for teams now that are joining the Super League, the likes of Nkana Queens and Changa, Choma Warriors, and Play It Forward, I think know what to do. I think they need to up their game and get the best players in around the country to come and compete favorably in the league.
Thank you very much. Now, both coming to you now, Ban.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, I think he's very much talked about a lot which teams need to do, and it all comes down to, like you said, keeping your best players and reinforcing teams which are coming in. They have a lot to learn. For Played Forward and Kana Queens, it's the second time they'll be playing in the Super League. For Played Forward, it's a bounce back immediately to the Super League after being relegated last season. So this time around, they'll be hoping to really build up that momentum to say we now have to put our heads together and this time around reinforce better. Now you can see, maybe you can pick some of the teams like he mentioned National Assembly. They have some of the good players who really don't deserve to go into National League. You can pop into that team and maybe see which players can help you sustain your status in the Premier League and obviously make you compete. Now you look at how the league is obviously growing. So maybe that's where a lot of teams need to work on. But for teams which really have been competing for the Super League, I feel it's a character they need to build in them. Just that resilience which Green Buffaloes outsmart them. I feel Indeni have what it takes. Even though sometimes they don't really live up to their potential, but they have what it takes. You look at how they compete against these teams. That's where they need to really. Even Zesco, the reinforcement, the stability they are having now, showing signs to say they can keep their best players and obviously even attract players as well as from Zanaco, Red Arrows, Green Buffaloes. They can even attract the player from Green Buffaloes. It's about how they package their package to obviously attract those big players and obviously bring them and compete because if you put a package well, you get to play COSAFA and qualify for CAF. CAF, there's a lot of money there now being involved in women's football. So from there, you know to say this is where we're investing. You need to have a target for you to really compete against Green Buffaloes. Green Buffaloes have tested CAF, they know the benefit of CAF and they want to go back. So you have to go there, invest, do what they are doing, and obviously come back and compete.
And just to add on, I think if you look at Green Buffalo's model, they used to get the best players in the league, and in the just ended league, they're no longer just now bringing the best players in the league, but they're also going outside to go and pick out the best players in other leagues. They brought in Vanessa Chikupira and Irene Kumalo, I think, were two standouts and really helped them to clinch the title. So they really know, like he said, they really know what it takes, like, to play at the COSAFA, and the importance of them qualifying year in, year out to that competition. So if they don't see a player, obviously they are looking for a player and they're not satisfied with the Zambian market. They are now exploring other markets like the Malawian League, which possesses obviously one of the best players in Africa and in the world. So Green Buffaloes brought in Irene Kumar and Vanessa Chikupio, did a very good job. So I think even teams that are below them, I think they should learn to cast their nets wider now.
Do you think like teams that you have mentioned to be below them there is need for them to recruit new players rather?
Well, definitely, because even Buffaloes, who are the champions, will be bringing in some new faces. Already they have been linked with some big names that will be potentially be going to the army side. So obviously, even Zesco and Indeni, they know that they need to obviously get a notch up from what they performed last season, and that comes with a lot of investment in player recruitment.
Thank you very much.
Are you an organization, a football team or athletics team looking for inexpensive and very comfortable accommodation within Ndola? Well, look no further. EB Lodges of Ndola is the answer. Comprising EB Stadium View Lodge of Twapia, conveniently located near the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium, and EB Guest House of Ndeke, loved by truckers and contractors. You are most welcome. You can book your accommodation in advance by calling 0977-253797 or 0967-253797. EB Lodges of Ndola for your mouth-watering meals and fully stocked bar. Perhaps the bar with the coldest beer in town. Get in touch now. EB Lodges of Ndola for your comfort and leisure.
Right. Naboth, you went to Kitwe, so kindly take us through how the whole thing was that side.
Yeah, so last week we had a provincial cup final to decide the overall champions of the Copperbelt Women's League, where we saw Zone A winners Morocco Rangers Queens playing against Mela Queens, who were champions from Zone B. And the match was played at Nkana, and after the final whistle, it was Morocco Rangers who emerged victorious with a 3-1 scoreline, which meant that they'll be representing the Copperbelt province when they go to the playoffs, where they will have a chance to fight for a place in the National League. In the National League. So those will be the Copperbelt representative, Morocco Rangers Queens. To Morocco Rangers Queens, and we hope that they will advance to the National League when they go to play the playoffs in Lusaka against these other provincial champions from other leagues.
Thank you very much. Lastly, we have the under-17 women who are going to play against Morocco. That is the final round to the World Cup qualifiers. How do you fancy they are progressing to Morocco? Either one of you can go.
I'll pick it up. Looking at how they fared in their last game against Uganda, I think it was a tightly contested match in Lusaka. They tried by their own means to obviously grind that result and get that all important. It wasn't as easy as it was against Tanzania. But overall, women's football is now growing in Africa, and you can see because Tanzania in the last World Cup they did well. So for them to be knocked out with a 5-1 goal aggregate, it was a huge scoreline and obviously motivating factor for them. But they played against Uganda, who were tactically better. It was a quiet half, but they managed to win overall both legs. This time around, they faced Morocco, who did so well in their previous game to qualify to this round. And this time around, Morocco, when you look at how they are investing in terms of women's football, they are at par. But in terms of talent, we are up there, obviously, and also competing. So I feel this is a tight game. It's the top two teams who are competing, and deservingly they have to beat each other, one another, to obviously get that one slot remaining to qualify us to the World Cup. And they are looking 4 years, actually. I mean, 10 years. The last time we qualified to the World Cup, which is in Costa Rica, They're now Barbara Bandas, Grace Chandas, Eze Onadis, Martha Tembo, and the others who were part and parcel of that squad. So they're looking to emulate that and obviously make their own record and qualify for the World Cup. So a very good motivating factor for them, and I feel they have a higher chance of beating Morocco.
Thank you very much. Now, but give us your prediction on the game.
Well, like Haya said, to be a tight match. I think this will be the tougher opponents at Zambia's first en route to the Dominican Republic World Cup. We faced Tanzania. We managed to beat them at home 5 goals to 0. We lost in Tanzania. We played against Uganda. We beat them here at home and managed to keep a good result away. And that has led us to face against Morocco. Obviously, I've also I've had a good path. In their previous 2 games, in their qualifiers, they managed to score 15 plus goals and they haven't conceded any. So if you look at that, we are now facing a team that is very lethal in front of goal. I think they're a free scoring side, the Morocco under 17. And for us, we are very good at obviously beating our opponents at home. And the fact that we are be playing Morocco first year at home, I think maybe that will be that will be to our advantage, because I think the girls now know that we have to kill off our games when we play at home, and obviously just go and play some compact football and just minimize on how you just minimize on the damage. Like it was last time in Uganda, they lost 1-0, but they managed to advance to the next round. So I think for the Copa Princesses against Morocco, I think it will be tough. And Coach Carroll really has a tough mountain to climb. And this time around, I think the girls should be tactically sound, and like they have done in the last few games, they just have to win. And I'm very confident that the girls will turn up.
All right, thank you very much for your time, gents, and hoping to have you again on the show.
Thank you very much, Jen, and good job you're doing for the women's football. Obviously, we need to be commended. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
It was a
much.
pleasure being a part of the show.
Sure. See you next time. Special thanks to So Good Pub and Grill, your one-stop groceries trading. To those celebrating their birthdays, I should mention this: they give free venue as long as you buy everything from them, including the bride stand. Not forgetting EB Lodges in Twapia and in Deke. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. On behalf of my crew, Bola Yakumyeso, I am your host, Wupe Jenny, saying goodbye and see you next time.